welcome to the Fandom Post Radio Podcast. I am your engineer, Kate, and joining me this week is Kestrel.
Oh no, where's Kestrel?
Did you not hear me?
No.
Oh, weird. Okay. Hi,
Oh, he is here.
He's here. And Cain.
Yep, I'm also here, hopefully.
That bodes well for this episode that happened right away. Wonderful. And we're here to talk about anime. This week we are catching up on all the news that has happened since the last episode, and we are going to be discussing what is left of the winter 2025 season as we slide on into spring fairly soonish. So, what do we have on the news docket?
Yeah, so by the way, I should mention, since I did, tweet this with the podcast account and everything, and, beskied it as well, that we were supposed to record an episode about character designers, and we're not. Because Kate doesn't have a list, Darius couldn't make it, Brand couldn't make it. We didn't really have a good schedule lined up in the past few hours, so we're going to do that sometime after probably the first spring episode. So probably at least a month from now.
Us your lists so we can discuss.
Yeah, that too.
Because it turns out character designer is actually a fairly difficult category.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I
have three on my list so far.
We've been talking about it for about 3 weeks, so as long as we just wait another 2 or so, we should have a full 5 from you.
One a week.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Yeah.
I'll get there.
It's hard, man.
Anyway, so yeah, we've got news going all the way back to the beginning of February to catch up on here. First piece of news here, the Pillows, legendary Japanese band, very notable for significant contributions to anime, have suddenly announced that they are disbanding they have disbanded as of their announcement after 35 years. Yeah. It's a bummer. But, I guess they had a good run, and at least James DeMarco can't keep making shitty Fooly Cooly sequels. So, silver lining.
I don't think that was going to happen anyway, because I really don't think they have any money anymore to do anything.
Yeah.
And you said they did a lot of opening themes and stuff for anime. I'm not familiar with the band itself, other than
so
to be a band is a lot.
So they did all of the music for Fooly Cooly, not just the ending song, but all of the songs in the show.
Wow.
Yeah. So and all of the sequels. So that's 5 series now. And then they also had kind of outside of normal profile in Beck and Sket Dance, in that the band themselves appeared in both of those series. So yeah, they're kind of they have a special relationship with anime beyond just doing theme songs.
Also, they're really fucking good.
They are good.
I think you would have to be to stay together that long.
But yeah, that's kind of one of the big charms of Fooly Cooly is the Pillow soundtrack, and that's why the one thing that's been consistent through all the shitty sequels is that they all have new Pillow soundtracks. And kind of like how, the live action Cowboy Bebop was the only good thing it did was bring Yoko Kanno back and have her compose some new Bebop tracks. The only good thing that those Fooly Cooly sequels did was have the Pillows come back and make new music for Fooly Cooly.
Well, there's a silver lining to everything, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. So, next piece of news. So, we've been hearing about this live-action Gundam movie for a while, not to be confused with the other live-action Gundam movie that has been out forever, and is the last canonical piece of the Universal Century, chronologically, but they don't acknowledge ever, and was Western even, was North American production. But yeah, this new one, it was supposed to be from Netflix. Supposed to have like a director from some of the MonsterVerse movies, I think. That's not happening, it seems. But instead, Legendary has signed on to it as a co-production with Bandai Namco Filmworks, which is, the new parent umbrella of Sunrise and Bandai Namco's other kind of anime and production houses. So yeah, they are giving it a swing now, so we'll see how that plays out. And kind of the only interesting thing about this is that in a little footnote in this press release, they also announced that they'll be establishing Bandai Namco Filmworks America as a base for overseas expansion of the Gundam series, whatever that means in practice. But yeah, it seems like they are putting more into promoting Gundam in the West. So yeah, that's interesting potentially for the future.
Yeah, I'm just not sure why people keep thinking this is a good idea. Like the live action.
Any live
Gundam
action
thing.
adaptations?
Yeah, a Gundam especially. Like, it just doesn't seem to ever work.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a similar enough thing in like what was that one sci-fi movie that came out a while ago and it got that really crappy sequel,
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim. Yeah, we got Pacific Rim and that was fine. But I really don't know if you could get away with a good live action Gundam movie unless you were doing it really kind of low key, almost like Hathaway Flash style, where it's like, yeah, it's in the Gundam universe, but this is more of interpersonal and like boots on the ground stuff rather than giant mech combat and things of that nature. I just don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're gonna make a big Gundam movie that you're going to declare as the first live-action Gundam movie, even though it's not, then people are going to expect a bunch of mech action. Like, it doesn't need to be Universal Century. It can be a completely new story, but they're going to expect that at least half of the screen time is big robots with V's on their heads punching each other.
Yeah, big robots with V's on their heads or big Cyclops robots that get destroyed in milliseconds.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I like the idea that you brought up as well, that they're going to be using, what was it, Bandai Filmworks USA or something?
Yeah, Bandai Namco Filmworks America.
Yeah, as a means of spreading the word of Gundam, though I wonder how much more they could really do in a way. Like, people know what Gundam it was, even if they're not familiar that a Gundam is a Gundam. I mean, anime is more popular than ever. Gundam Gakooks was in theaters, and I see like Gundam shirts all over the place. I think Uniqlo did a Gundam thing recently that people bought stuff
Uniqlo
for.
does collabs with super niche stuff too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, people know what it is. It isn't like Gundam is a completely unknown entity here. So
it's not a completely unknown entity, but I still feel like it's kind of I don't know, too niche in the West for how big of a property it is.
Maybe, I don't know. They sell Gunpla fucking Barnes and Nobles, so
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like as ubiquitous.
I like that every example I bring up of Gundam in normal places, and you're just like, yeah, well. I could be like, there's a Gundam outside my house, and you'd be like, well, I mean.
I believe that because you're a fucking Gundam nerd. But I'm saying that there are a lot of anime that have much smaller profiles in Japan and much bigger profiles in the US than Gundam. And so I think there is ample opportunity for them to increase its presence in the US.
Yeah, which generally I'm cool with. I'm just not sure what you would do necessarily.
How much popular can they make it? They sell fucking model kits in Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, but I mean that's still kind of a niche market. Like,
I know,
yeah,
but like, it's
if
not
you
like
are a model kit buyer, you are going to buy Gunpla, yes. But if you are an anime fan, you are not necessarily going to watch Gundam, is what I'm saying.
I think there's
No,
limited growth there.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I just think there's also limited growth. I think there's also just like I don't know how much mass appeal Gundam would super duper have because it's not. I don't know. It's hard to describe. As in, Gundam is really cool, but it also is kind of it's niche in its demographic almost around here. Like all the people I know outside of like anime circles that watch a bunch, they just watch whatever the coolest new shonen is.
Yeah.
Or like, whether that's Attack on Titan or Solo Leveling or whatever. And I don't think Gundam could ever reach that level just because it's not that. Unless you change what Gundam is necessarily. Like if you get away from the Universal Century, space opera war drama and just turned it into Shonen Punch Fest. I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a hard sell for like Universal Century to find new fans because you kind of have to like go back 50 years to consume it. But I think they are doing the most obvious first step in this effort, which is make a big ass fucking Hollywood movie. Because yeah, of course, that's how you get normies into Gundam is you throw Gundam next to a Marvel movie, and then they're like, oh, okay, Gundam is accessible to me now, and I like anime too, and there's a new Gundam anime, and this one has cute lesbian girls and doesn't require any prior knowledge. So I think it's kind of an obvious connection why they established it as part of co-financing this Hollywood movie. But we'll see how it plays out because a lot of those fail. For One Piece, it was a big success. It got a lot of people into the One Piece anime, the One Piece manga. A lot of people who had no interest in anime or manga otherwise watched that on Netflix, and then they were interested in the source material. So I think that's what they're hoping for.
Yeah, I think, well, for one thing, the movie has to get made first, which...
Yes.
Yeah.
Unlikely.
Yeah, that is an obstacle all in and of itself, just to get the movie made. And then the movie has to be good.
Yeah. Or at least bad in a way that people like.
But if it's bad in a way that people like, they're not going to watch the anime. It'll just be a bad movie for them that they like.
Well, I don't mean people liking it because they acknowledge it's bad. I mean that generally the movie-going audience has poor taste.
Ah. Gotcha. So, yeah. We'll see. We shall see. I'm skeptical, but
yeah,
I'm skeptical of a lot of things normally, so...
I mean, I don't think this is going to get made. Like, 99% of anime live-action adaptations do not get made. So, yeah. Just the little bit about we are establishing a footprint in the US is an intriguing footnote there.
Maybe it'll bring even more Gunpla to Barnes & Noble.
I mean, probably. If Gundam gets more popular, which is the plan, then absolutely there will be Gunpla everywhere. Just like there's Funko Pops everywhere. As much as that disgusts me, like
if we could replace all the Funko Pops with Gunpla, that would be very dope.
Absolutely, yeah. Like if you should be able to find a Gunpla everywhere you can find a Tanjiro Funko Pop, basically. That's the goal. I think that's actually their mission statement they've got on their wall.
That's it's plastered across their office walls. Yeah. Replace Funko Pop.
God's work.
I'm all down with that, yeah.
Okay. Next piece of news. I don't cover a lot of manga licensing here, but this is a big one. Viz Media has licensed the Kingdom manga, which is currently up to 75 volumes. They've announced that they're going to release it physically and digitally. They're going to do like a simulpub once they catch up. Yeah, that's
once they catch up.
News.
What year will that be?
Well, I don't mean that they're going to, wait until they have 75 volumes out. They're just going to publish, I forget exactly what the wording was. Let me see what they said. But they're going to publish some amount digitally. Where? It's not on the press release, apparently. I'll try to find the tweets about it. But yeah, they are doing everything that everyone has been begging for decades and thought that nobody ever would, because 75 plus volumes still ongoing of Chinese history. So yeah, but it's super acclaimed, and the anime adaptations have gotten much better, but they still don't quite capture like the artwork and the style of the manga. So yeah, definitely very happy to see this finally happen.
The manga is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen.
Huh?
Why are the horses built like that and drawn like that?
Yeah, the anime was like weird CGI at first, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, at first, yeah.
Not great.
Yeah, starting with I forget what season 2 looked like, but starting with season 3, it got a total stylistic reboot, and it's much better for that. So now it looks like perfectly serviceable, but nothing exceptional. And yeah, the artwork has a lot of detail that's just kind of glossed over. It's just kind of very flat and solid colors for everything.
Yeah, that's a manga that I've been meaning to at least take a look at for a little while, because it is as critically acclaimed, and I can't remember the last time, if ever, actually, that... Oh no, there's one other one that I know of that the anime started so ugly looking and managed to rebound and gain popularity, and the only other one I know of is Baki, because Baki was terrible CGI, the new one when it came out, and then they switched and got rid of all that too, and it's gotten a decent following, which obviously I think that is a testament to the quality of the story and the characters, that it can survive like such an ugly adaptation.
Yeah, for sure.
So that definitely inspired me to try to find where I can read it. I'm just not sure. I've been too lazy to actually Google much of anything, if it's available digitally anywhere or not.
No, I mean, that's the thing, is it has been completely unavailable for its entire existence. That's why this is such a big deal.
Yeah, for sure then. Probably like fan translations is what you got? Scanlations or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I have great respect for, manga that is that popular that is also ugly. Aesthetically ugly. From my viewpoint.
Yeah, they tweet a lot of shit about this. Yeah, I don't know. They confirmed that it'll be digital and print.
Digital will be nice, for sure. That's my preferred way at this point anyway, outside of nice little box sets and stuff. I just do not have the space for physical manga.
I'm going to need to get a new bookcase just for this series.
Yeah.
I should see if they've solicited volume 2 yet, because I'm curious to see what cadence they're going to try to go for this. They have. Okay, cool. So, December... Oh yeah, so that's one a month. So, yikes. So even if they do wait until they're completely caught up, it's only a couple of years. Yeah, like 72 volumes, one a month, so 6 years. It's a while. But we've been waiting 20 years for it to be available at all. So whatever. I'll take it.
Yeah, you
and like, it's not like I'm going to catch up.
I said take what you can get.
Yeah, it's not like I'm going to catch up to the manga on chapter, 770 or whatever in the next few months anyway, so it's fine. Yeah. And then, so the new Animego under Justin Savakis did one of their live streams similar to the discotheque ones that we get. They tend to have a little bit more focus. I mean, granted, they're not licensing as much stuff, but the stuff they're licensing is anime. It's stuff that people actually care about, and they don't talk about stuff for as long. So instead of the discotheque streams that go for like 3-4 hours, this is over in like 45 minutes to an hour. But anyway, this latest one, the new announcements that they had in that stream were the Blackjack OVAs, Romeo's Blue Skies, which I'm very excited for, and I believe that's the first World Masterpiece Theater anime series that's actually been licensed, which is huge. Vampire Princess Miyu, they're releasing in HD, and Sasuke, not the Sasuke from Naruto, and not the Sasuke that was Americanized as Ninja Warrior, a 1968 anime series. Yeah, that apparently has a dub that nobody knew existed that will be included, and has some minor meme about a dog getting killed or something. I don't know. I haven't actually watched it. But yeah, that's what they announced.
Sasuke one looks pretty nice, actually. I like the art. I think I'm just coming around to liking 1960s anime art a lot.
Interesting.
I don't know why, except I like that everything's round.
It's very round. Do
Everything
you have
is
other examples?
Well, Astro Boy.
Okay.
Everything is round in Astro Boy. Cyborg 009, which I think is around that same time period.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if it got an anime at that point, but I mean, like the Dororo manga too. I mean, basically everything by Osamu Tezuka is round as hell.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there was a Dororo anime back then. Can't remember if it was 60s or early 70s, but that era.
What's Romeo's Blue Skies?
Yeah, so that's... Oh yeah, I guess I should mention one of the labels under this new Animego is called Ruined Childhood, which, if anyone knows Justin, he loves depressing things happening to children in his anime. So he's licensing a bunch of things that fit under that category. And Romeo's Blue Skies is one of those. But yeah, so it's based on a German-Swiss story called The Black Brothers. A questionable name, but
yeah, a little bit
referencing like chimney sweeps. But yeah, anyway, it's like I mentioned, the World Masterpiece Theater, which is like, you know, one of the anthology series that adapted all of these kind of classic Western stories. A lot of them were worked on by Miyazaki and Takahata, and a lot of them are very significant. And Romeo's Blue Skies, I think, is the first one to be released in the US, at least for a full-length series. So yeah, it's very acclaimed as well. I've been hearing great things about it for many years, and I've been wanting to check it out for a long time. So definitely excited to check it out. And you know, they have trailers for all of these, and they cut really really good trailers for all the stuff they put out. So you can check those out to get excited about these. I'm not interested in most of the things that they've licensed, but all of the trailers make me wish that I was, because they're all very, very good trailers.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Get you interested.
I feel like anime trailers for like the past 10, 20 years have not been good at that, but these are all very good. Yeah, okay, so next piece of news. They announced the second season of Bocchi the Rock. Now, this is not surprising, but the one thing that was inevitably going to come up with this announcement is the fact that it's the same director as Frieren, and there's also a Frieren sequel coming. And so there's a question of, is he going to be able to do both? Is he going to pick one over the other? And surprisingly, usually what happens in this case is, you know, down the line it gets announced that there's a new director and they never acknowledge it. And people can have their guesses as to why they were changed. And in this case, it would be a pretty obvious reason. But very unusually, as part of this announcement, they included like a talk with the director of season 1 explaining why he's not coming back for season 2. And basically the reason he gave was like he never planned to make a second season. He thought it was like complete in its one season. I feel like that's probably like 1% of the truth, and the other 99 is that he'd rather direct the next season of Freerun, or something new. But yeah, anyway, there was an assistant director on the first season. He's taken over as the new director. Still going to be Cloverworks, so should be relatively consistent, but I definitely think the season 1 director, Saito, elevated that material to something far better than it had any right to be. So I don't anticipate to like the second one quite as much, but I'm hoping that it lives up to it to some extent.
Yeah, we got that one art piece for the free rent announcement, and that was it. And I was like, oh,
well,
you can't do that.
That's almost the next piece of news, but yeah.
Yeah, Bocchi was not one that I watched, but a couple of my anime acquaintance folks and coworkers have, and I know it got I don't know if you'd call it like a sleeper hit necessarily, because I don't know how much hype it had going into the season.
I feel like it definitely was.
Yeah, that's the impression that I got, but that doesn't mean jack shit considering I don't know many anime that come out every season or anything like that. So
I think like the people that went into it with hype were the fans of like, you know, your Kaons or your Bang Dreams or whatever. But it ended up finding, you know, a huge fan base of, you know, people who were not expecting it to be a really insightful look into social anxiety, which is something that it accomplished, much to everyone's surprise, given that the source material was, you know, that was a gag, but it was a 4-panel gag manga like Kaon, so it added a lot of depth to it and to its characters. And then, so that was the first series that Saito ever directed, and the second one he directed was Freerun 1 year later. Those are still the only 2 things he's directed, so it was very apparent once Freerun started that it was like, oh, this guy was what made Bocchi what it was. So yeah, that's why I'm a little hesitant about the next season, but if he's going to do this or Freerun, I don't fucking care about season 2 of Bocchi, so yeah.
Yeah, the priorities there are pretty clear.
Yeah. For sure. And yeah, that would segue nicely into another piece of news, but I'm going chronologically. So before that, I will mention Masaki Yuasa has started a new studio. You may remember that he previously started a new studio called Science Saru, and ran it for a while, produced or directed pretty much everything that the studio produced for a while, and then kind of suddenly left it. And he's been relatively quiet for the past few years, and now he started another new studio, and presumably his next directorial works will be produced at this new studio. It is called Ame Pippin. Yeah, not much else has been announced about it, just a new anime studio in Tokyo.
Ame Pippin.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any meaning behind that. It's an interesting title to give to a studio, or anything in particular.
Well, Yuasa's an interesting guy.
Yeah, what was the last thing that he made? Was it Inuo?
I think it was Inuo. That's definitely the last thing he ever made at Science Saru.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than like directing that Spy Family opening, I can't think of any major work that he's done since then.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the last thing that the last major work he did was Inuo, and the last thing he worked on, period, was the Spy Family opening.
Maybe he just needed some time to get the creative juices flowing again.
Yeah.
Something like that. Because he pumped out a couple movies in a really short period of time there.
He pumped out so much in a row there. Like, once he established Science Saru, let me just go to his filmography here. So, starting at 2017, he released 2 movies in 2017, a series in 2018, a movie in 2019, a series from 2019 to 2020, a series or 2 series and a theatrical cut of one of those 2 series also in 2020, and then Inuo in 2021. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 major works within the span of 4 years.
Yeah, the man just woke up and then never slept again.
Exactly. Just a half decade of constant work. And this was while he was, running the studio as well. So, yeah. He deserved a few years off.
Yeah, I would say so as well. Probably has to. He's probably running on empty there for quite a while, so give him a little bit of time. I like almost everything that he does in one way, shape, or form, because I think he's one of the more creative and out there directors of stuff. Definitely. He really kind of stretches the medium in ways that some other directors don't. So I appreciate and like him for that, but Jesus Christ, tap the brakes at least a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if it was just he was ready to take a break, and so he's yeah, you can take over the studio, and then he just decided to make a new one, or if there was some drama behind the scenes, but we will likely never know.
Yeah. He just had to hibernate.
Yeah. Which again makes sense, but it doesn't mean that he couldn't go back to the studio that he founded. So, I don't know. Masao Maruyama has founded 3 studios at this point, so, it's just a thing people do sometimes.
Yeah, maybe it's just a thing so that you can kind of, I don't know, get started on a different foot, because you're fresh studio, fresh work.
Exactly, yeah. For an auteur like him especially, it's probably okay, Science Saru has kind of gotten away from, my vision of my Yuasa studio, so now I need to make a new fresh one. Possibly. This is all conjecture.
Yeah, of course. It could have also just been that name's boring now, so I'm going to do something else. It could be something as fickle as that. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah, and then the other piece of news I was alluding to is, yes, we had previously talked about Frieren getting a continuation. Nothing was announced about it except that it would be anime and it would be by Madhouse. We still don't have a lot of information, but we got a second key visual for it, and the announcement that it will be premiering in January 2026. Before, we had no sort of time frame for it. So again, we don't know if Saito is even directing this, or if he was also yeah, I really only envision Frieren as one season, and he goes off to direct some new property. Because, you never know. Frieren is an ongoing manga. It could be his only job for the rest of his life, and that's not necessarily something that a creative wants to be kind of stuck in. So it's possible that some of the staff will change. We are certainly all crossing our fingers and holding our breath that it will be exactly the same lineup as the first season.
Yeah, and really.
Yeah, they had all of the same amount of time and everything to put into it. The fact that it's a year off, well, slightly less than a year now, is good to me. I want them to have that time to make it perfect. So yeah, we will see. I'm hoping in the next month or 2 we get some staff announcements, because that'll kind of be the last piece of worry that I would have.
Yeah, the one piece of key art is so nice and peaceful. And I'm yes, please just give me more of this. How far along is the manga compared to the anime at this point? I know it went on hiatus for a while.
Yeah, so I know I have read the manga up to where the anime leaves off, which was, let me double check that. So that was the first 6 volumes have been covered, or the first 60 chapters specifically. So because it stops partway through a volume. And we are up to 13 volumes and 140 chapters. So they could give us another 28 with what they have right now. Another 28 episodes.
Nice.
I don't know if it's going to be 2 core or 1, but yeah, somewhere between 12 and 28 episodes, presumably.
Yeah, they at least have the raw material.
Yes. And yeah, they managed to make it phenomenal for 2 cores, 2 long cores the first go around. If that's possible again, great. If they've only got the resources to do 12, 13, 14 episodes for now, fine. I'll wait another few years. That's fine. But yeah, that's all we know about it right now. Yeah, Anime Japan is next month, I think. So it's possible they'll announce stuff there. That director, who I've been praising so much, will be at Anime Central in Chicago the following month, which as soon as they announced him, I immediately booked tickets. So hopefully I will be able to talk to him, or at least he'll have some news on this by that point from official announcements prior.
Just grill him in the autograph line.
All right, exactly.
Yeah, go up to get your autograph, and then when you give him whatever you're going to autograph, then handcuff him to you.
Yeah.
I've seen it work in movies.
Yeah, for sure. I have no doubt. That's all the news I had. I see that Kate has added a few news stories if we want to go over some of those.
Yeah, bring it on.
I have. This kind of came out of nowhere and took everybody by surprise in a completely what the hell way. A live action adaptation of Claymore was announced by CBS Studios, of all people. And this is confusing. I don't know why, of all properties, this one.
Yeah. Speaking of will never get made.
Will never get made. If this somehow... I can't imagine there's a universe where this gets made. Not in this economy. I feel like maybe if it had been, 5 years ago, when they were like, yeah, push this stuff out, and then a bunch of shit that should never have gotten made got made. In, CBS Studios? Why them? It's so confusing.
I mean, what got made that wasn't in production hell for 20 years first?
No, I mean, nothing. Well, the pandemic fucked a bunch of stuff up anyway, so taking that out of the equation, I mean...
But I mean, just anime live-action adaptations for Hollywood specifically, they all just, languish in production hell for decades, and then either never surface or get, put out by some nobodies and nobody cares.
Yeah, I can't imagine this is going to go anywhere. This is such a strange thing.
Yeah, very strange. Okay, I'll grant you this. Saint Seiya live action did get made, but Saint Seiya is fucking huge in Latin America. Claymore is not that huge anywhere in the West.
It's not huge anywhere in Japan. It's not huge anywhere.
It's not huge anywhere.
That's why I'm so confused by this. It's an older property.
Yeah.
Never set the world on fire in manga or anime form.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a complete story, but I mean...
The manga, anyway. The anime got one of your standard, let's wrap it up with our own ending kind of thing.
Yeah.
And never got revisited as a sequel or a reboot.
Nope. Yeah.
The only thing that I could think about for reasoning behind licensing this for live action is it is a dark fantasy and people like that.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing I could think of when you said it. It was people like Game of Thrones. So
yeah. It's probably
people like swords and sorcery with a dark edge to it, and that's what Claymore is. And I read the manga and the anime, and I'm like, yeah, it wouldn't be a hard story to adapt. It isn't the deepest thing on the planet. That's I don't think it'll be made either. Obviously, I was just trying to think of why this, and it's probably because they could make a pretty easy adaptation if they so chose to. Just give some ladies some swords.
Right. it's a pretty Western
Really?
setting. They want to see, badass women with swords.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it was probably super cheap.
yeah, I bet.
Well,
I
yeah,
bet.
I mean, I'm sure that was a factor.
If CBS
What
Studios could license it.
But it's
they
like,
just dug
such
whatever
a
they had
weird
in their
thing.
pockets.
Yeah.
Such a weird thing. Yeah, and Claymore has more in common, I think, with like Attack on Titan than anything else.
Yeah,
Even shares one of the exact same plot points towards the end of the series. It's very
yeah,
strange.
if they were going to go with dark fantasy that would actually, get eyeballs, it'd be Attack on Titan, Berserk, etc. But those were probably expensive. So they were
Yeah.
like, Claymore, I guess, fits the bill, sure.
And I bet there's also those are expensive in their expectations.
Yes. Right.
Claymore's not going to have any expectations because it doesn't have a foothold or really too much of a fan base. If you try to do a live action of Attack on Titan, that's a death sentence for whoever makes it almost, because you would inevitably piss 80% of the people off.
I mean, that's
almost
that's
no matter
always
what.
kind of the gamble you're playing, high risk, high reward, because if you pick something big, you're going to get people to watch it, and you're going to get people to hate you because you fucked it up. If you pick something small, nobody's going to watch it, but nobody's going to care if you fuck it up.
Yeah. I think the thing is fucking it up is a little, not quite the term I was thinking of, because it's more like the fan base is so huge and so, I'm just going to go with like diverse, that a certain number of them will always think you fucked it up no matter what. It could be perfect, but some people would think you fucked it up just because it didn't fit whatever their headcanon or character perspective or actor choice or whatever.
But you can't please everyone. They're never going to care about that. They just want a success. I mean, One Piece was a success.
Yeah, they want the next One Piece live action. Like,
exactly.
That, we did not,
They were
Problem is that requires like respecting the source material, which I don't think would happen here either.
I don't even know if you need to respect this source material.
I mean, you don't need to be faithful, but you need to respect what it was going for.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It doesn't need to be a 1-1 copy, but it can't be like, we're calling this Claymore, but it actually has nothing to do with anything in Claymore ever. And
right,
in
exactly.
Fact, all it shares is a name.
Or like the Resident Evil movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any reason to assume that this couldn't end up with people who would treat it well. It's just unlikely that this property will get the attention to actually get made, because they know that it's not going to get anywhere.
And if it does somehow make it to that stage, they just have to bank on not catering to the anime audience, because literally nobody cares.
Yeah, it's not a recognizable name. Yeah.
No. It's almost better if they just, did whatever. Well, one thing's for sure, the women aren't going to look like they do in the manga, where they're all like platinum blonde, and you can only tell them apart by their hairstyle.
Yeah. This may be the last thing we ever hear about in live action.
Probably. Yeah, so utter confusion there. This is a fun one. G-Kids screens Princess Mononoke in 4K. Soon.
IMAX.
I wish there was an IMAX near me. The closest one is like a 45-minute drive. Yeah.
Well, there is not one single IMAX in all of Vermont, so I got to suffer through never seeing anything in IMAX for many, many years.
But now you can.
Oh, I sure can.
I hope people send pictures of Mononoke from the front row seats.
Oh, God.
I have my tickets for the Chinese theater, but I regret to inform you that I'm not in the front row.
Could you please go to the front row for just a brief moment to take a picture for me?
I can attempt. Since I'm going to be out of town for the first few weeks, or the first week that it's playing for, it's like at the end of its run that I'm seeing it on like a Tuesday at like 10 p.m. So I don't think anyone's going to be there, so I could probably do that.
Oh yeah, you'll be all alone practically.
Yeah.
Perfect opportunity.
Yeah,
I'll have to see if it's anywhere around me, because I would definitely go see it in 4K IMAX. Why not? It's one of the best anime movies ever. So
agreed. Yeah, definitely excited.
Kate, did you have anything else?
No, I'm trying to figure out where the nearest IMAX is, and it's probably at Jordan's Furniture, so.
Go ahead to
what?
your...
We had this
I remember you
discussion
talking
before.
about this before. You talked about this when we talked about like Oppenheimer or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, go to your
Cliff-
local fandango.com and enter your zip code, and it'll tell you.
It's either Jordan's Furniture or the Providence Place Mall. So one of those two locations I know is the closest. And the last bit of news is that there is an All You Need Is Kill anime adaptation. Is this a movie or a series? I think I wrote movie, but I'm not sure.
I don't remember. Let me just kill.
This is a fun story, if only in that it did things in almost the exact opposite order that normally happens to manga.
Yeah.
It was a light novel, and then it got... Did it get the Tom Cruise movie first, and then the one-shot manga?
Yeah, the one-shot manga was kind of to promote the movie.
Yeah, so it got a live-action adaptation that is quite good, and then a manga, and only now is it getting an anime.
Yeah,
it's taking the exact opposite course that everything else goes. The promotional little piece of art looks interesting, as it doesn't really match most things that I've seen, so I don't know if that's just a creative choice or what they're going for.
Yeah, it's Studio 4C, which has very interesting aesthetics generally.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Them and Science Star are kind of like the weird, wiggly studios. In fact, they did Mind Game, which was Yuasa's first feature.
The funny thing about this is this is like the first adaptation where Rita actually looks the way she's described in the novel, as a petite redhead, American redhead. And the funny thing is, in the novel, there was actually a plot point where she became like super famous, and they made like action figures and movie adaptation of her with a tall blonde busty actress. So life imitating art, very amusing.
In the story.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then they went and made a movie adaptation where Rita was blonde and tall, and that was hilarious. Yeah, the cool thing about this adaptation is it's going to be from Rita's point of view, so that's cool.
Interesting.
And the aliens actually look like, although I had a fight with somebody online about this already. I could have sworn somewhere in the novel they are described as barrel-shaped alien creatures with kind of sandy innards and starfish arms. And the thing in the preview for this, they actually do look like starfish. And then somebody else is like, no, they're described as looking like frogs. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they said starfish anyway. So that was pretty cool. I really like the visual style they're going with on this. So
yeah, I like it too. It was just interesting that it's so unique compared to the other adaptations and such. You're really going to get 3 very different presentations of the same story in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. Does not look like the Takashi Obata manga at all.
No.
But yeah, if you look at like Studio 4C's films, most of them you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see it. And yes, this will be a film.
I'm so glad it doesn't look like that manga adaptation. I hated the way that looked.
It looks nothing like Yoshitoshi Abe either, who illustrated the original light novel. All 3 very different, very distinct aesthetics.
I don't even think there was that many illustrations in the original light novel.
No, just like one of those.
Yeah, it was the cover.
Yeah.
Not like most light novels that have a bunch.
Yeah. Right. Yep. 4 very different aesthetics for this story.
All right, you said that was the last little bit you had, Kate?
Yep. That'd be it.
Cool beans. Well, lots of good stuff there. Some very interesting little pieces of news and some exciting events coming up, like Mononoke and such. So yeah, get out there to your nearest IMAX if you can, just because that'll be a really fun experience. If you're short, like my wife, be sure not to pick a chair directly in front of a 3-foot high wall.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, we saw, I can't remember what movie it was at this point, but we saw it in IMAX together. I think, no, I can't remember anymore, but I felt so bad for her because when you sat in the chair and it, like, did any reclining, it covered, like, the bottom 40% of the screen.
Yikes.
Because of the wall that sort of, I guess, was there so that you didn't fall down because they were, like, stadium-style seats.
Uh-huh.
So
because they have that seating configuration specifically so that you don't get your view blocked by people in front of you.
instead, they'll just put a wall there.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. But yeah,
Yep.
good stuff. So then let's head on over.
But on that note, have you seen G-Quox yet?
Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that's how you said that. I just was going with Gakooks until someone corrected me.
Yeah.
But no, I have
I
not.
say quacks.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
It all works. Yeah. God damn. Okay. Well, I'm sure.
I told you I didn't get a chance to see it in the theater, so I was just basically gonna have to wait until the series starts.
Yeah. I was just hoped that I had convinced you to, since that was like preview day -2 that I was talking to you about it. But yeah. Wow. You will have some thoughts in a couple of weeks.
Oh man.
It hit up my
I've been
newsfeed
staying
a
in the
couple
dark,
times.
so- I've been staying in the dark.
No spoilers
No spoilers.
for you, Cain, with your newsfeed?
No, I didn't read the stories. Just kidding.
Cool.
Every news story was titled just like, well, this is creative. It's basically what they were saying, like it revolutionizes Gundam or something like that. So obviously, in what you were telling me, like it does something at the very least weird.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to it because I always
know.
like.
I'm trying to figure out which way weird this could go.
I really want people to not look at anything at all.
I am not looking at anything at all.
Okay.
Neither am I. The only thing that comes up is the occasional news story in my feed, and yeah, it's not spoilery. It's just like always that same picture of the Gundam like head on, and then some shitty little byline about how cool or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, I think all of the official promotional material is safe. It's just if you read anything from anyone who's actually seen it, then you're going to get spoiled.
I'll be sure to be on my guard.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm always up for people taking like long established properties like Gundam or Lupin or Pokemon or whatever and just having a field day with it.
Totally.
Like it's better than getting the same thing over and over again. Like that's how you stir up, interesting concepts within, long running shows or whatever like that is, introduce somebody or something to really throw stuff for a loop, even if it's not canon or whatever. Like,
okay, we need to stop talking about this or I'm going to fucking start spitting out spoilers.
Don't say anything.
This is too hard. This is too hard.
Say nothing.
I'm saying
nothing. Yeah. Just
I'm down. I'm down for whatever mindfuck this thing ends up being. So,
not the mindfuck you'd expect, considering the creative staff.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I think we covered a good amount of news there, so it's time to jump on over to chat a little bit about the wrapping up season here, and then maybe a little bit about the season that's upcoming, because I know that, at least for me, and I think for a couple people, this has been a relatively lean season for good shows and such, but I know spring has a couple bangers, or at least some prospective bangers on the horizon. So
spring has a lot coming up with a lot of different things happening.
Yeah, I was just scrolling through the website I use now, and I'm just like, ooh, that looks interesting. That looks interesting. That's good. Ooh, look at that, which doesn't happen super often. So,
Yeah.
Actually, watch like more than one show next season.
We'll see.
well, let's.
It's about as likely
Not,
as
you know.
Claymore getting made.
Hey now, hey. As long as I don't have to review them all, I can watch whatever I want.
Yes, but in practice, you only end up watching the things you do review.
This is also true. Okay, then I just have to review them all, and then we'll be okay.
There you go. Just put yourself through hell to watch good anime.
Only 3 weeks behind on my Apothecary Diaries reviews. Watched the episodes, just haven't written the reviews yet.
Well, all right.
Bad.
Well, I think that's a good segue to start talking about Apothecary Diaries,
there you go.
since we are all watching it. And I'm just gonna start by putting the spotlight on you, Kate. How are you feeling about the show so far?
Still very good. Doesn't get less good. It's very politicky this season. It's a lot of bitches trying to poison other bitches.
Which I love. I'm
I
like
mean,
all about it.
It is a show about palace intrigue and an apothecary, so yes. Bitches been getting poisoned, so.
I'm surprised any baby has been born in this world.
Yeah,
Talk about it. Talk about it. It's so tough just to have a single baby, because the second any of the concubines get pregnant, every other concubine is trying to figure out a way to kill that baby.
Yes.
Like, it's absolutely nuts. But yeah, the politicking and the cloak and dagger shit has been so good this season. I've really enjoyed all of the scheming and everything between not only the concubines but their associated ladies in waiting, and Mao Mao just kind of getting, if not caught up in it directly, at least, you know, involved from a narrative point of view where she's like ruminating on it or something.
See, now she's worked herself into a corner, though, because she has done so much to save various concubines without, preference, that now the Emperor trusts her.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a whole other date that she was trying to avoid that. She did not want to be anywhere near the Emperor for any way, shape, form, or meaning. And he's kind of, like, chill with her now, to the point where he's like, yeah, follow me to this super secret area where only, like, the Emperor and, like, the close relatives of the family are supposed to be.
Yeah, this
like,
maze thing.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, this is an escalation of, like, he trusts you with his potential heirs, and this is a line you did not want to cross.
She has been especially incompetent at her stated mission of keeping a low profile.
Yeah, she can't keep her nose out of literally anything happening. She can't turn a blind eye. She's all like, and every time she does start, like, going down that path, she's like, I shouldn't be doing this. It's like, nope, you gotta do it anyway, though. And, yep. And then the other thing is she's still just living in denial about Jinshi and his actual role in things, even though she figured it out, like, last season. And just does not want to accept the truth. And Jinshi is, like, also living in denial that she knows the truth, like, even though she straight up saw him in that temple. Performing a ceremony that only one member of the royal family is supposed to be performing.
Yeah, she wants to pretend that she doesn't know, and he desperately overlooks her incredible competence in every way to be like, well, she didn't figure this out. I only made it blatantly obvious. Like, yeah, it's funny seeing the curse of competence for her kind of get in the way, that she doesn't want to get too involved, but like the doctor there sucks, and so many of the people are just kind of ignorant of how plants and medicines and things work that she can't help herself. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting way that she's gotten herself into, and then solving that maze thing. But luckily, the Emperor is boob man, so she's fine in that regard, apparently.
True, yes. He has proclivities. I love the fact that the emperors are like so stuck in the proclivities that it's like basically guaranteed that if you do not fit that very narrow requirement, like you're safe.
Such as being an adult.
Yeah, being an adult. God, that whole thing was fucked up.
Yeah, that was some creepy stuff in those last couple episodes. Like Emily would keep looking at me, making like a stank face
It's
every
like, no,
time.
he's not supposed to be a good guy, and they've been clear about this since day one that he was not a good guy, and even if he did have trauma there, he's still not a good guy.
Yeah, he's still a super weird pedo man. Like, ugh, so gross.
Yeah, I did not expect this. I don't think anybody expected the swerve in that episode though. About the Emperor's mom there.
Oh yeah.
Especially how she got pregnant with the second kid. It's like, oh, everybody be raping everybody in this show.
It definitely takes a couple dives into some, for lack of better terminology, like more realistic portrayals of how life around here works. Because I do think sometimes you can get caught up in thinking that like life at this palace is like a slice of life anime all the time, because stuff is generally peaceful, and then every once in a while it pulls that curtain back a little bit, and you'll see like, oh no, peeps are getting violated all the time.
Yeah.
We just don't show it, but it happens.
It's funny because there's one thing they bring up in the light novel that they did not bring up in the anime at any given point, which was there's a point in the light novel where Mama's walking around, like walking through like the back palace at like after hours, and she's trying to keep her vision up and forward because she can hear all this rustling in the bushes, and she knows it's just a bunch of like ladies stuck in the inner court just fucking each other in the bushes, like after hours, because like who else are they gonna screw around with? When there's no dudes around, and she's just like, nah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to ignore that going on back there, and keeps walking. I'm like, well, that didn't get portrayed in the anime whatsoever.
Which is not terribly surprising.
Funny though. I mean, they're so frank about everything else, but
it's true. But I don't know. I feel like it's one thing talking about it, and another thing to have it like be actively happening.
Could have like alluded to it in the same way they did the books where it's like rustling bushes giggling. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, they kind of did in that one point where like the girls get into the chocolate and she finds them and they're all like disheveled on the floor, but
yeah, all over each other.
Yeah. By the way, eating chocolate will not make you horny lesbian. I'm sorry, unless you're already a horny lesbian. And then,
and then the chocolate's just an excuse.
Yeah, the chocolate's always an excuse. So what else have you guys been? What else has everybody been watching? Because that's like my one show.
Right. Well, I think we're all at pretty low counts, as Cain alluded to. Mine was an intentional choice. This is my retirement slate. Only 12 shows a season. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We're working on paring it down. Paring it down ever so slightly.
Yep.
I remember when there's 12 shows a season total.
Well,
as illustrated by that thing you guys were looking at earlier.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Back in those days, you didn't really get to follow the season anyway, because there was no way to watch it as soon as it came out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, in that era, yeah. That was pre-video internet era.
Right.
Unless you wanted a 180 by 180 pixel like real media player window.
Yeah, which you probably weren't going to get the stuff the week it aired in Japan anyway.
No. No, you were not.
But yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the end of Daima Cain, since I just listened to our friends at Kanzenshu talk about the whole series for 2 hours.
I mean, I really liked it. I think it had one of the best Dragon Ball jokes of all time.
Which one?
Vegeta getting threatened with no more sex if he stops fighting, and then he stops.
I knew that's what you were going to say. That was absolutely the highlight of the entire series.
It was fucking great. And then the way that they animated Vegeta coming back down, he didn't just instant transmission. They show his flight path down, so you get a nice little breathing moment for the punchline to kick in by showing him fly back down. It was so good. Like,
that was hilarious.
I wasn't expecting it to happen as well. Like, I was like, oh, she's just gonna yell at him and, whatever. Something like that. And then she's like, I'll never take a bath with you again. And you get the dramatic music sting and the slow motion look of horror on Vegeta's face. It was perfect.
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
It was
Vegeta
absolutely
fucks.
perfect.
Can we call the episode Vegeta fucks?
Yep, Vegeta knows who butters his bread, and he ain't looking to fuck that up.
Yeah, that was fun.
I mean, I've enjoyed Daima pretty much the whole time, like plot, speed, and some stuff, included in that. But I really think it had a super strong ending in general. Like, the fight was really good with Goma. When he basically turns into Jiren.
Yes, Jiren Goma.
Yeah, he just turns into Jiren, essentially, and they have a fight. I like that he was huge, like a super giant, though, even when they were adults. I think just because of the size difference made it a fun, dynamic battle aspect, because Dragon Ball Super, and nor Z or anything, ever played around with, like, size of villains too much. That was something you got in Dragon Ball, like, with
That's
giant
an interesting
Piccolos.
thing with Toriyama's kind of progression of his power scaling, is that villains always got smaller as they got stronger.
Yeah, that's true. They always shrunk in some way. Like, even Boo, who was like really rotund in his base form, gradually just got leaner and leaner until he was a kid.
Yep.
So it was nice to see them go in the opposite direction and have Goma be super strong, but also just be really big and imposing. It made him feel more like an honest-to-goodness villain, honestly, when they were fighting him. Like, rather than if they just made him the same size as everybody else. It would have made it a little more boring for me, but I enjoyed that they kept him in this enormous form as they fought him and stuff. But yeah, I liked it. I think the fights were animated really well. I was a surprisingly big fan, and I can't remember if Super was doing this at all by the end, but that like weird first person camera angle when they're flying they use sometimes.
Yeah, I don't remember that being used before.
Yeah, I could not remember if it was. It felt new, but I know I forget a lot of stuff about shows I watch. But I enjoyed that just to give a little bit more variety in how they're portraying the fights when they show the flying from one person's perspective or point of view, first person or otherwise. It was really cool to see that. And of course, it had to be like a half gimmicky way to defeat Goma instead of just, obliterating him because of that demon eye and everything. So it had to be some weird little gimmick to defeat him, which I always like anyway, especially for a series that is supposed to be more Dragon Ball-y and kind of funny, that instead of just overwhelming with strength, it was you had to hit him in the back of the head 3 times in a row. So
yeah, that gave me, even though this is Z era, gave me very Yajirobe cutting off Vegeta's tail vibes.
Oh yeah. Well, given the fact that it was it Majin Ku? I can't remember the
Ku, yeah.
Yeah, Ku. He was the one that did it in the end anyway.
Exactly.
So another like a Yajirobe-esque character,
right,
was the one that did the ultimate damage in the end, despite how many times Vegeta and Goku collectively atomized Goma. Which, by the way, Super Saiyan 4 being like kind of canon and cool again is great. I love the Popeye arms. The Popeye arm design, magnifique. My brother didn't like it too much, but I love the fact that their forearms are fucking bowling balls.
The show's so stupid.
Yeah, and I mean, Super Saiyan 4 was always my favorite anyway, like regardless. But now that it's back, and I really don't know if Daima's canon or whatever. I've never given a shit about canon.
Anymore, yeah.
Yes, I've never given a shit. Toriyama didn't give a shit about canon in his own creation, so I don't think we should either. But it's nice that it was reintroduced.
Yeah, I think my favorite quote from that Kanzenshuu review of it that I heard was like, Dragon Ball Daima isn't even canon to other episodes of Dragon Ball Daima because it fucking contradicts itself so much.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Super Saiyan 4, literally Neva makes Goku Super Saiyan 4, and then, like, the next episode, he's like, oh yeah, I'm able to do that because I trained for it a bunch. Like, no, but that's the whole thing with Neva. He made it happen. What?
That's Vegeta's mantra, though. It's just, I lifted more weights than you. So
I know, but
that's how I achieve it. So it didn't surprise me at all. I'm like, oh, Vegeta's just gotten a little angrier.
No, but it's specifically Goku said that that's how he got Super Saiyan 4 right after it showed Neva awakening Super Saiyan 4 in him.
Yeah. No,
shit like that. Yeah, it's just constantly contradicting itself. And so many just, like, things that it introduces that it just never delivers upon.
Doesn't have to. not to me, at least. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah,
I like it the way it is. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. The ending fight and seeing like the good and bad-ish guys come together to defeat Goma is always a fun little bit that I enjoy, because I don't think anyone was ever really treating the Majin Kus and Dus or anything as the villains, because they never interacted up until the very end. So
right.
just to have them turn around quite quickly and, you know, band together to fight Goma instead was something that I wasn't surprised by in any way, but I was glad they did it rather than the opposite. Because
Well,
it's not, I couldn't take them as serious antagonists in the first place.
I agree, and I wouldn't have thought of Ku and Du as the serious antagonists, but I thought Degesu or Arinsu or even Glorio would be more likely candidates. And Degesu was just a nothing burger.
Yeah, that one
Arinsu-
shocked me a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, that was
I was expecting
really
him to be like
underdeveloped.
I was expecting him to be the right-hand man that betrays the leader at the very end.
Exactly. He was manipulating him the whole time. He was the real villain.
Instead, no.
Yeah. Like, Goma was nothing. He was the idiot, incompetent, weakling king who was being taken advantage of, but he ended up being the actual super strong final boss. Was not expecting that.
Yeah, so yeah, I think I'm on the same boat with you there. I was thinking Degesu the whole time, and I was just waiting for the betrayal, and then either he finds a way to become super powerful in combat or something like that with this eyeball thing, rather than him just getting trapped in that bottle.
Yeah.
off screen.
Very underutilized. And yeah, if not him, at least Arinsu, with, you know, the secret reveal that Glorio was my minion all along, but that gets like 60 seconds of airtime in the end, and then it's just like, okay, Glorio's back to being a good guy, and Arinsu is actually too, so...
Yeah, Glorio betrays her in the very end, and then she doesn't even mind.
Yeah, she's like, okay, I get it. Even though, it was, yeah.
Yeah, the second he had to do his wish in Namekian, I was like, he could just say whatever he wanted right now.
Right, exactly.
Nobody understands it except for Neva and Piccolo, maybe. So
yeah, and just the fact that, like, they were building up him being the double agent for Arinsu for the whole series, and then he just immediately betrays her anyway. Like, all right, at least give us like an episode of him betraying them first, and then his moral conflicts, instead of like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was... The end result was what I expected it to be from him. Like, he was always going to rejoin,
of course,
the good guys. Yeah, he was never going to...
But if you're going to build up to his betrayal for, 13 episodes, then, capitalize on it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe it didn't bother me as much because they built up to it, but it was always just in like 5-second FaceTimes.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
He would just
Your,
FaceTime Arinsu
You're
and be
one-on-one
like,
with your boss, yeah.
yeah, he'd have his weekly one-on-one with Arinsu, and then they would never talk about it again. So I guess maybe it didn't bother me all that much because despite the fact that they were building, it was so minimal that his decision didn't feel like it was that hard of one to make. Because at times it didn't even feel like he cared. Like maybe that fight with Goku when he realized how strong Goku was and how much he would get his ass whipped was enough for him to start changing his mind. But yeah. But all in all, really enjoyed the way that the series wrapped up. And I laugh too all the time about how blunt Goku can be in conversations. So when Majin Ku asks him to be a ambassador, he just says no and it goes home.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I still don't appreciate how much him getting turned into a child really made him act like a child in a way that he does not as an adult. Like, yeah, he's always kind of a man-child in some ways, but he was literally just like a baby who couldn't use a toilet correctly, like, most of the time. So, yeah. I didn't
take a bath or something. I can't remember that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, would refuse to take baths, shit like that. So, yeah. And the whole getting turned into kids things was totally fucking pointless the whole time. Like, that's not a nerf that every small child in the Dragon Ball universe can, like, destroy planets at this point. These guys being kids does not mean that it's believable that they are now weak against all these nobody villains.
Yeah, it's definitely it was a cop-out way to weaken them, but I have tried to think about what you could have done without having to spend too much narrative time on it. Because, yeah, like you said, even babies can destroy planets now.
Yeah.
So, without just being like, oh, Goma wished for everyone to be weak.
Right.
Or something like that. It would be hard for me to come up with something right away that could weaken them in the same instance without like physically changing them outside of just straight up asking for that. Which I guess he could have done.
Yeah.
Goma could have just been like, make him 75% weaker or something like that.
Especially since we already have a Dragon Ball series that starts with a weak little villain wishing on the Dragon Balls for our protagonist to become a child again. And that series also culminates in him becoming an adult again and becoming Super Saiyan 4.
I am glad
that series.
Yeah. I'm glad that they cut out a lot of the transformation requirements for Super Saiyan 4.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have to go into an ape and then a golden ape and then Super Saiyan 4. It was just, now we're jumping right to Super Saiyan 4. We're just boom, bam.
But they also aren't consistent about what is required for the transformation, because maybe it's Neva activates it, or maybe he just trained for it. Who knows?
I try not to think about it too hard. I just think my headcanon is that they just got to get mad enough.
Sure.
That's it. You just got to get angry enough and then you'll transform. Because at least in the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, that's what it was always about. It was like harness your anger and use that to become Super Saiyan 2 or whatever.
And then super retcon that to be like, yeah, just like make this part behind your neck itch a little bit and then you'll just become Super Saiyan.
Yeah, if you just like take a deep breath or two,
pretty much,
you will become Super Saiyan 3.
Yeah. It's about where we're at. Yeah, so all in all, I think the last few episodes salvaged the series for me, because at that point, the storytelling had beaten me down to the point that I didn't give a shit about anything, and I just wanted to see big punchies, and it gave me big punchies, and it always looked great, which Dragon Ball often does not, especially Super and Superhero. it didn't look as good as Broly, but that was, an hour and a half, not 20 episodes. So it always looked consistently solid and at times very impressive. Not at the level that like the big Sakuga hits are these days, but it was still always pleasant looking. That's most of my praise for it. I enjoyed the bullshit ass pull fan service at the end, because whatever, at that point I'd given up on storytelling, so I was like, sure, shoot your load. And
that's right.
The Vegeta fucks gags were phenomenal and
the Vegeta fucks gags, amazing.
Yeah,
more of those.
No notes on those.
Yeah, not a note on Earth for that.
Yep. But other than that, I give zero shits about Dragon Ball Daima and will probably never think about it again in my life.
Did you notice? I don't know if it was maybe just me, but like the animation for like the last little scene when they go back to that store was super smooth. Like the way people were moving around, and I was like, everyone's moving around like really ridiculously smoothly, especially Bulma. So it felt like
his last scene, they were probably like, oh, we got another hour. Sure, let's make this scene a little bit more fluid.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, they must have just done this last and figured, whatever, we have an hour left in the workday, let's just make this look way better than it needs to for
right.
a small gag scene in a convenience store.
Yeah, I think consistently almost all of Dragon Ball's existence, but certainly the modern era, I would probably much rather watch a fly-on-the-wall documentary of the production of these series than the series themselves, because they are clearly just one disaster after another, and they're just like cobbling together whatever bits they can to try to put something out there, and that absolutely the end product we get was in no way anything that anyone planned for it to be. And Super had a lot of that, and this had a lot of that. At least it did not have it in the animation quality and general production quality department, but the storytelling, Christ. So yeah, bummer about that, but whatever.
Luckily, I don't watch Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z for any discernible story. So I guess it just doesn't bother me in that way, because I never treated Dragon Ball Z in particular. Dragon Ball's a little bit different because it's an adventure, and therefore it had a more overarching storyline, kind of, rather than just who is the next villain we need to beat up.
Yeah.
But I never really cared too much about plot or story, because neither did they.
Right.
So
it was always kind of an afterthought, but I've never felt like I had to turn my brain off quite this much, to the point where I'm like, you might as well just not have dialogue, because none of it's going to make any sense or mean anything or matter.
Well, keep the dialogue for the Vegeta fucks jokes.
Yeah, sure.
And have no one
keep it for the
speak
jokes,
at all.
yeah.
Yeah,
just
keep
jokes.
it for those jokes, but nobody speaks at all for the remainder of the episode.
Yeah, for sure. Because everything they say is going to contradict themselves. Or give us some false hope of an interesting plot line that they're not going to actually do anything with. And that's Dragon Ball. And that is perhaps all of Dragon Ball that will ever exist from Akira Toriyama. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I can't say I'll end up thinking about Daima all that much either, outside of there are characters to get in my mobile game, so they will still be around, but I can't say I'll ever go back and rewatch it except the Vegeta fucks joke.
Which is funny that you say that, because that's kind of how these elements from GT, like Super Saiyan 4, have lived on for the past few decades. Because, like, today's generation of Dragon Ball fans hasn't watched GT. They have no reason to. It's been retconned a million times over.
They probably haven't even watched Dragon Ball Z or anything either.
That's possible, yeah. But they've kept elements like Super Saiyan 4 alive through, like, these gacha games and various other video games and card collecting stuff. And that's probably the only reason that it's coming back now, because people are like, oh, well, I can get Super Saiyan 4 in Dokkan Battle, whatever. Why don't I see it in my shiny new TV show? So they're like, sure, we'll throw you a bone. Here's Super Saiyan 4 for real this time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or like fighters or any of the video games, that bring those forms back for the sake of playing them in a game. It keeps those alive.
Right. Yeah, everything that's non-canon is canon again. Broly, we'll reboot Broly. Super Saiyan 4, we'll reboot Super Saiyan 4, etc., etc., etc.
Indeed. But yeah, that's, as you said, that's Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Daima in particular. Overall good, enjoyed it, but yeah, it's not something that I'm going to be thinking about. But I think we can thoroughly move on to other shows. I don't want to say greener pastures, but at least other shows. So, Kestrel, I know you have very high marks for Solo Leveling Season 2, so I kind of wanted to hear what you had to say about that in particular, since obviously you know how Bran and I in particular feel about the show and such.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard for me to understand how you can forgive all of these bad writing choices in Dragon Ball and have literally any complaints about the writing of Solo Leveling, which is the only thing anyone complain about, because everything about its production is absolutely top-notch.
I mean, that's a really easy question to answer. And it's the characters of Dragon Ball. Like, I love Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo, so I don't really care. I don't care about Solo Leveling Guy in any way, shape, or form. So that's it, really. Like, it's not reasonable or logical, but the characters and everything are just as important than the writing.
Okay. Yeah,
and I don't. In the couple episodes I watched of Solo Leveling, I didn't find him redeeming or fun or interesting in any fashion. So that's why it fell off for me in particular. Though I know the second season and then that movie and stuff, I know had a lot of really good reviews. But it was also, I was wondering, is it still just from the fact that the combat's really good?
No, I mean, that's definitely exceptional, but the story gets a lot more interesting. The characters get a lot more depth to them. The world building gets a lot bigger. There's a lot more complexity to the lore and the different characters and how they interact. There are long periods of time where you don't see the protagonist, and you get a lot of material with other characters. You get to see him involved in a lot of the bigger world stuff as well, with kind of like the overall society of the hunters and the gates and everything. More than just Korea exists now. That's often a problem in these like high concept anime, is that only Japan exists, and for pretty much season 1 of Solo Leveling, only Korea existed. We're moving away from that now. So yeah, it's becoming a lot bigger. Like I alluded to earlier, we are well into the Chimera Ant arc of Solo Leveling. I think the anime is doing a little bit of a better job at making it seem less like such a blatant Hunter x Hunter ripoff than the manhwa did. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting choice that they went with, that the original author went with, to have it be so similar in so many ways, and that's only going to increase. But yeah, I think the world building, the character development, the conflicts that they go through, the dynamics and struggles and everything, are all just becoming more and more interesting and compelling. And yeah, everything about the production is insane. Like, I don't know, Dragon Ball Daima looks like Dragon Ball Super compared to Solo Leveling. And the music and the choreography, the direction, it's just the cinematography, the compositing, the effects. Yeah, it is just spectacular. So yeah, it's like, every week I'd go into Dragon Ball Daima and kind of be like, okay, yeah, I like Goku. This looks pretty. Super didn't look this pretty most of the time. That's cool. That was kind of a funny little, Dragon Ball style adventure story or gag. Okay, there's some fun fan service, sure. But it was mostly like 75% kind of a slog of being like, are we going to do anything interesting this episode? Is there anything I'm going to care about this episode? No. Every episode of Solo Leveling, I feel, is really tight. Pacing's really good. There's, real stuff that I can take away and think about from every episode. It's not like the deepest, most complex philosophical storyline, but it's something that every episode I'll be like, yeah, okay, I remember that thing happening in the past half hour, and that's gonna be something that I think back on. So, yeah.
Does it struggle with, because I know people were saying this about these are light novels originally, right? Well, no,
yeah. Well, it was the web novel to light novel to manhwa to anime path.
Quite a journey.
Yes.
How does it deal with, if at all, the fact that, is it the whole point that the main character just gets stronger than everybody else and therefore pushes them into obscurity? Like, that's what people were saying about the manhwa too, is that there's these character developments for these minor characters, and then the main guy just shows up and gets stronger than them, and then you never hear from those characters ever again because now they're useless to the story because they're not as strong as he is.
Speaking
is that something
Dragon Ball syndrome?
Yeah, is that something that the anime kind of has figured it out, or is that just the way that they're going?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if that's going to happen, it hasn't happened yet. Certainly, he keeps getting stronger, and we are at the point in the story where it's not like a secret anymore. Like, everyone in the world now knows that he is one of the strongest hunters. But, since we've gotten this Chimera Ant arc and expanded outside of Korea, gotten hunters from other countries, we've introduced a lot more S ranks, and, he stands toe-to-toe with that tier. But they are all still kind of equally competent at this point. And they all have their different specialties and different kinds of strengths and weaknesses that can play into the dynamics of a battle, whether against each other or against a common enemy. So they're all still very relevant in that regard, given the fact that he continues to progress. Yeah, it's possible that at some point in the future everyone else will be irrelevant, and I don't really know how it'll deal with that, but so far we're not really at that point.
Cool. Yeah, because that's something that does come up, and I was wondering how it was going to handle that after a little bit, because he gets so strong so quickly that it's like he's just going to eclipse everybody in the universe soon, and then we'll get a Dragon Ball type situation, but with someone I like way less than Goku at this point. But it's good to see that they either, they're taking their time and getting to that point, or maybe they'll come up with some way to address it constructively, since, you do set up a sort of hierarchy of levels and things in those first couple episodes about the different ranks of hunters and what that means and how many people there are in the universe. Then this guy's going to come along and obviously just completely disrupt that entire system.
And I mean, I think the next step after he makes all the other normal human hunters irrelevant is that we actually have to dig into the system that has given him this opportunity, and what the implications behind that are, because that's still mostly shrouded in mystery. There's some greater power that has given him this ability, and he has, this is stuff that has been revealed in the second season. He can speak to monsters, and they have sort of a similar kind of voice in their head that gives them commands, whether it's to kill humans or perform some action, and it seems to all be kind of connected to whatever system has put him in this position. So presumably, a new world will open up in that area once he's kind of eclipsed all of the people in the normal human world. So there's a lot more to explore there.
Cool.
And it is a complete story because the source material in all forms has ended.
It's done. So
yeah.
How long is it, like, compared to where they're at in the anime right now?
I'm not sure where they're at in the anime. Let's see. The manhwa, because I've read that up to a certain point. So that... Where is... it has 13 volumes. Let's see. I have read... I feel like maybe half of that. So... Yeah, I've read the first 7 volumes, and that covers maybe to the end of what this season will cover, maybe a little bit further. So I would guess that this season will be like halfway through.
And that counts the movie, or was I don't know if was the movie a canon thing, or was that just like a first couple episodes situation?
You know it. You know what anime movies are these days.
Yeah, you're right. I don't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, it was just a clip show of season 1 and the first 2 episodes of season 2.
Ah, cool, great, fantastic.
Indeed.
All right, well, I'm glad to know that it's good. I mean, it's definitely popular. Like, the people at my work that watch anime are all watching it. They asked if I was going to see the movie, and I was just like, no. And they're like, why not? I mean, I don't like the show. And then they just turned around. Like, that's fine.
How far into the first season did you make it?
I think like 6 or 7 episodes.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, regardless of what the movie was going to be, you wouldn't have been able to see it because it was going to be following the first season no matter what.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have picked up enough context clues to understand what was going on a little bit. Even if I would have just watched the movie out of the blue, but yeah, it's not like I was caught up with the series or anything at that point. But, alrighty, well, let's see. I know you got a couple more shows on your list. Really, Daima and Diary, like Apothecary Diaries, were the only 2 shows that I've been like particularly enjoying. So there is Sakamoto Days, which is at the bottom of your 12.
Mm-hmm.
We could chat about that for a few minutes. I feel like I've gotten the full experience of this is what happens when you read a manga before the anime is made. Because yes. I'm fully on you should just read the manga. Like, for people.
Well, particularly for this adaptation.
Yeah. Well, that seems to happen more often than not, if people just like read the source material.
But for the big jump hits in recent years, they've all gotten incredibly lavish adaptations, so this is kind of the outlier in that regard.
Yeah. So it's not that it's bad. I guess let me be frank there. It's not bad. It's a perfectly acceptable series. It has some high moments. It's just the quality of the animation and the art and things doesn't live up to the source material. And then at the end of the day, I mean, that's kind of what the manga has and is. Sakamoto Days is nothing but these wonderfully drawn, highly kinetic fight scenes over and over and over again, with a very loose plot connecting them all together about hitmen and the world and schooling of what being a hitman is about and how you can't actually leave being a hitman. But you have to really nail that in the anime, and that's not exactly something that this has done.
Yeah.
And there's not really much more to say about it.
You're not angry, you're just disappointed.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah,
and
I mean...
I know Bran was on the last episode, and he was saying the same thing, because one of the first big fights is that roller coaster one and the stuff that goes on in the amusement park. That's like the first big taste of what you get out of the manga, and they didn't really execute that particularly well. So, yeah. But Kestrel, you have it at a B-, so I feel like you're kind of in the same boat. Like, it's not shit.
Right. Like I said, I've increased my standards. If anything gets to that point, then I'm just going to drop it. So Sakamoto Days has been fine. I agree that it does not look very good and that it's a series that wants to look very good. It's very much like One Punch Man Season 2, because, the manga was gorgeous and had so much action everywhere. And the first season did an incredible job at adapting that. That was one of the series that it got an anime announced, and I was like, well, it's never going to look as good as the manga. And then it looked even better for 12 episodes, and then it looked so much worse. So this just kind of did a shortcut to that, where by like episode 2 or 3, it was kind of in the dumps. And yeah, it's a fun story, but it's an action show with bad action, so bummer.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot you can really do to salvage that, because there isn't anything in the manga that would salvage that. If the manga action didn't look very good, it would never have gotten popular enough at this point.
Right,
the characters they all have their full of quirks about what their powers can and can't do, especially for people like in the order. But that's not enough to really carry a manga or an anime with flat action scenes. So I'm hoping, if anything, this will just encourage people to read it. It's very easy to find. You just get the Shonen Jump app and you pay them the $2 or $3 a month it is now, and then you can read it to your heart's content, as well as everything else on that app. So hopefully there'll be some people who may pick it up there. But yeah, it's a little disappointing, but at least it's not insulting.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's not like what'd I say? It's not like Uzumaki, right?
Yeah. Yeah. At least outside of the first episode.
Yes. Not quite the precipitous drop. It's just...
No.
Episode 1 looked okay. Episode 2 a little worse. Episode 3 a little worse. Everything after that, not great.
Yeah. I hope the Uzumaki thing goes in like a textbook someday. Of like the prime example of how sharp a drop in quality can be or something. I don't know how it would get in there, but just it needs to be remembered because it was such whiplash.
Yeah, someone asked for my best and worst anime of 2024, so I said best Uzumaki episode 1, worst Uzumaki episode 2.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. 100%. All right, we have a couple more things we can go over here real quick. You have another A rank show on your list, and that's the ReZero third season, which I don't think you've really talked about too much in general. But yeah, clearly it's of quality.
This season had an interesting air schedule in that it's one core of content spread across 2 cores. So basically it aired for half of the fall season and then took off the latter half of the fall season and the first half of the winter season, and then came back for its second half in the second half of the winter season. So unusual schedule, and it was planned from the beginning. It wasn't like production problems. It just, they broke it into 2 arcs, and so it took a break between its arcs for whatever reason. But yeah, it's I've read well ahead of this in the light novels for ReZero as well, and this was always some of my favorite material from the novels, and it's an adaptation that's always looked very good, always had really strong production across the board. So it continues on that with a lot of action, a lot of despair, which is a lot of what people come to ReZero for, is despair and suffering. And, a lot of interesting character moments, I guess, with a wide variety of different villains and creative ways to overcome their unique abilities, which, appear very insurmountable at first. So it's just a really engaging kind of action set piece that allows for some good character development throughout. And so for those who don't know anything about ReZero, the premise is that the main character, can reset to like his last save point when he dies. And the save points are, not something he controls. it's basically when he overcomes some major ordeal, then that's where he resets back to when he dies. And this season has had less of him dying, which sometimes the deaths can be really rewarding in kind of what he has to sacrifice to get to a point that he can salvage the situation. But it also means that any character development that happened with anyone else in the story gets lost because their worlds all reset. So the fact that there hasn't been much of that in these arcs helps the dynamics between the different characters and their relationships build more organically. So I think that's been helping as well. And it makes the stakes seem higher because after a certain point, you know that it's not going to reset because it's like, okay, so much has happened now that he's not going to redo all of this. So then it makes it feel like, okay, now these stakes are real.
Yeah, I'm sure there's just a vibe eventually where there are too many character developments, too many world building events that if they just all got erased, you would have such a hard time summarizing it.
Yeah.
You know, if it took place over 5 or 6 episodes, and you have to be like, and now we're going to do it all again in half of one episode.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, it's really well executed. It's a series that not everyone is the biggest fan of, but I think it's been getting a lot stronger in this material, and I've always liked it. So yeah, I'm happy with it in its direction.
Nice. Yeah, this is another one of the almost countless amount of anime that I didn't keep watching, not for any reason other than I think it just took a long enough time to get from season 1 to season 2 that I'd lost interest, or there were just other shows that came in and never went back. But it seemed
that was
like
a gap of like almost 5 years, I think.
Yeah, it was just an enormous amount of time. Similar to Attack on Titan, which I still need to go back and watch, from beginning to end now since it's over, but it had also that huge hiatus that just made it that I didn't go back to it. But I remember really enjoying the first season.
Yeah, both of those series I think actually had exactly 4 years in between season 1 and season 2, which is crazy because both of them were huge hits and you'd think you'd want to strike when the iron is hot. But whatever.
Indeed. Alrighty. Then I only have 2 more shows on my list, and they can be summed up pretty simply. There's just Amiku MD or House the Anime. It's fine. Finally got some character development for the main character that isn't just her being arrogant and right about everything. So she finally got some humanizing development, a little vulnerability put in, but it did take 9 episodes.
How many people had to die for her to get her come to that realization?
Just one, but it was a kid with leukemia, so pretty low-hanging fruit there to try to get you emotionally invested is to give you a cute anime kid who's gonna die of leukemia. It wasn't like some adult that she couldn't save that had, some complexity to their own character. This is just a kid who is sick, and she couldn't save him, and then they tried to give her a little more humanity in that way. I was actually going to ask either of you, did either of you two watch House, the show?
I watched it when it was out. I didn't watch it all the way through to the very end of the series, because it started going off the rails at some point, as most shows do.
Yeah, I'm assuming it did a pretty decent job, at least of trying to give House, or is it Hugh Laurie was the actor? Yeah. Like some humanity, some relatability in a way. I imagine they probably did that with a little more aplomb than this anime, which just threw a dying child at you and was like, see? She's human. Also, I've come to realize that if you're a feet person, this anime is also for you, because the show just loves having her feet on the screen. Every time she walks in a room, it's always her feet walking in. It's never her. It's always the feet. Every time they show her sitting down, it's always the feet. Like, so much feet content. So everybody out there, if you love that,
their director's poorly concealed fetish.
yeah,
exactly.
if you're a foot person, everyone out there, you should check this out. I think it's going to do a lot of stuff for you.
Right now, it's like, God, I gotta get on that.
Exactly. I was just gonna say Tarantino just added it to his queue.
Yeah, and then Guild Receptionist is the other one I'm watching, and I've come around on that one a bit. I'm becoming more fond of the world it takes place in. I think because it is an honest-to-goodness fantasy world for the most part, and not like a game or anything, and just how staunch our main character, the receptionist, is about not wanting to do adventure stuff, and then she's only ever doing it because she just wants to not have to work overtime. I thought that was going to be a gag that would last an episode, but for the most part, even when some of the most powerful guild-associated people come to her, she's like, no, I don't want to fucking do that. Like, she just brushes them off. She's getting connected to some of the other characters in the guild, the Silver Sword, and, you know, becoming friends with them, which is influencing her decisions a little more frequently to help or go into her guild adventurer mode on her own accord. But for these like big world politics, it is interesting that she's still and continues to become even more staunchly in the realm of I just want to go home. So it's growing on me a little bit, and it helps that it does look pretty decent. It's not the most fantastic show in the world, but it definitely looks better than House. So it's got that going for it. That's about it there. That's a decent one if you want a more, at least a fantasy show in a actual fantasy environment rather than some type of isekai thing. This will do that for you. But yeah, hopefully spring's got a little more going for it than winter did. Kestrel, was there anything off your list that you wanted to talk about in particular? I know we kind of hit the big ones, like the big ones as well as Daima and Sakamoto, so the rest of the stuff is kind of more in the middle. I wasn't sure if you were inspired to speak on anything.
Unfortunately, we are hours out from Orb ending, so I feel like my thoughts on that are going to depend greatly on how they finish it up.
Ending, or just the season ending?
Ending. It's a complete story. They're adapting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yep, so not quite sure on that one yet. The rest of them, yeah. You know, it's all stuff that I've talked about before, like Sakamoto Days was the only new show that wasn't a sequel that I started this season, so mostly all stuff I've talked about.
Indeed. Well, with that being the case, we can always move into our recommendations, or if there was anything you wanted to talk about the spring season. I know I was looking at the schedule a little bit, and it is chock-a-block. So
we'll cover that in the spring episode, I guess. But unless anybody has things they know exactly what they're going to talk about here.
Well, I'm just curious what you guys are so excited for, because it doesn't look that impressive to me.
Just like the variety of what's going on next season is good.
Yeah, I mean, there's Lazarus. I'm really looking forward to Lazarus.
There's Lazarus.
I did get to see the first episode of that at the beginning of the year.
Oh, look at this guy.
Kowloon Generic Romance. I know, he's so special. Kowloon Generic Romance. Could be very good. They can stick that.
This new Gundam that Kestrel's dying to not spoil for me.
There's absolutely that.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a Guilty Gear anime that I kind of want to watch because I play Guilty Gear, so it's always had a super highly polished anime art style, and now they're just giving it an anime. So, and then and Anne Shirley looks really good. Anne of Green Gables stuff, which Emily was also interested in watching that as well. So I'm excited for that, for another show we can watch together. And I never read like Anne of Green Gables or anything like that, but I know that it is a pretty classic story and like really seminal story for young women and stuff. So that's always interesting too.
Speaking of World Masterpiece Theater, that project also adapted Anne of Green Gables into an anime series.
Yep. It's one of those weird Western properties where I'm like, why did this get so popular in Japan?
There's a lot of those.
Yeah, this is random. Apocalypse Hotel had an interesting trailer. If had nothing else, it's Side Games Pictures, so their shit's usually pretty good looking. It'll be one of those situations where if they make a sequel, that will go off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from the perspective of we have a new original series from Shinichiro Watanabe, and we have a new original series from Hideaki Anno in the same season, that's kind of like a crazy situation for 90s kids.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot more interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess both of those series I have now seen the beginning of, since I also saw the first however many episodes of G-Quux. So, yeah.
I mean, I gotta check out at least 5 of these shows that are happening.
I don't believe you.
I will.
Yeah, can you put a timestamp on this episode?
Yeah, right.
I will check out at least 5 of these shows.
I'm also gonna get an audio clip of that, and I'm just gonna play it every once in a while.
I think Moonrise, which is a Netflix ONA, is gonna be the latest incredible potential absolute disaster of an anime that we get.
It does look cool. I also saw
that's what always happens with ambitious new original series with the most stacked staff ever.
I don't even see that on my list.
Is it categorized by like type? Because this is a ONA, it's not airing on TV.
Oh, okay, then it will be down here.
But yeah, that's like the
there it is.
Yeah, the studio and director of Attack on Titan, the creator of Full Metal Alchemist doing the character designs, and then the big question mark is the writing is by To Ubukata, who has a questionable track record.
What's he done previously?
So he did the Psycho-Pass sequels. He took over from Urabuchi on those. Yeah. He did, let's see, the Ghost in the Shell Arise. He did, let's see, those are like the big ones. Like he's taken over these big beloved properties and given them less than stellar continuations or reboots. So yeah, that's not super promising. And generally, whenever we get one of these, like, it's the biggest studio and the biggest director and character designs by the biggest mangaka, it's an original story, and we're putting a bunch of money
watching
into
this
it,
trailer is not helping me understand what the hell the story is supposed to be about. So
yeah, but usually the story is a mess when that happens.
Yeah, usually.
So, not getting my hopes up that will be anything decent, but it's intriguing, I guess. Yeah, I guess in terms of percentage of original series, it's pretty decent this upcoming season, because normally there's like maybe one.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm excited for in particular too, is that I'm not seeing nearly as many second seasons and sequels.
Yeah, it's true. Not a ton of those. Like, the only really big sequel I see is Fire Force. There's a few sequels to, like, you know, kind of smaller shows, but for big ones, that's kind of it. Witch Watch, you can also go see the first 3 episodes in theaters right now if you'd like, of course.
Yeah, there's just a lot in the spring. Yeah, and like I said, it's kind of covering the full gamut of all sorts of random
Yeah, there might be
categories
more
of things.
variety than usual, I guess.
Yeah, so I think it's shaping up to at least be an interesting season for folks who aren't, like, previously invested in a lot of the shows that are airing.
True. Yeah, I guess it's more interesting to talk about a bunch of new stuff than a bunch of sequels, because generally with sequels it's like, yep, it's like the last season, but more stuff is happening.
Yep, exactly. But all right, let's shift over into some recommendations before we wrap it up for the evening. So I'll pass it on over to Kestrel first, and then we'll do a little roundtable for recommendations and such. And as we've kind of morphed into over the many episodes, it's generally anime or video games or whatever. So
It's whatever, yeah.
yeah, it's whatever. I recommend hamburgers. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I guess for some anime releases, we got Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 coming out. I think the first arc is out now, and the second one's coming out in a little bit. Let's see, we've got the first Slam Dunk on 4K now. I finally gave in and bought that because originally they had announced that there would be like a deluxe edition, and that never seemed to happen, but it did get a 4K after the original Blu-ray, so I was like, okay, well, it doesn't seem like we're ever getting anything else, so at least I'll get it on 4K. So yeah, that is out. For some non-anime, I'll just mention I finally started watching Invincible. After
nice.
hearing many great things about the season that just wrapped up, and I haven't caught up. I'm halfway through. I think, yeah, I'm exactly halfway through. So I don't know what's so mind-blowing about the last few episodes of the last season, but I can kind of see the trajectory where they build up to really crazy stuff at the end of each season. And yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot, so I'm looking forward to catching up on that. Let's see, did I have anything else? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't have a ton. Oh, yeah, of course. Most importantly, I imagine that everyone who listens to this podcast has a Crunchyroll account. But if you have any friends who do not, but have Netflix accounts, you can now watch all of Frieren on Netflix. I already have one of my coworkers at my previous job and one of my coworkers at my current job watching Frieren because it is now on Netflix. And I'm getting regular updates from my current teammate about how great it is and that he's showing it to his other friend who's an anime fan and who's also obsessed with it. So do some good in the world, get more people watching Frieren. Apothecary Diaries Season 1 will also be joining it on Netflix in 2 weeks. So you'll have that opportunity as well.
Yeah, spread the word.
Yes, spread the gospel.
The gospel.
It's what, I mean, if we're being real, it's what Himmel the Hero would have done.
Perfect. Kate, how about you?
Let me think. Recommendations. I have been playing Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm sure everybody has an opinion on that by now.
I know I've seen a ton of people try to run it on the Steam Deck, which feels like just an awful idea.
Yeah, don't play it on a Steam Deck. That doesn't seem like the best way to experience that game. Let me think, what else has come out? The Suikoden, Genso Suikoden has been remastered, and games 1 and 2 are out with a slightly polished or corrected translation, because when Suikoden 2 came out originally, there were straight up lines in there that were not translated towards the end of the game. Yeah, that was one of those very rough hit the ground running releases back in the day. And there's been some quality life updates. Not as many as you'd think. They're still old RPGs. But they are available again, and in a nice, neat little package. So, and, the story holds up, at least in Suikoden 2. Suikoden 1's not bad either, but, yeah, you can see the DNA of Suikoden and a lot of stuff that came later. So, check that out. That is my main recommendation right now.
I think one of the biggest things you see the comparisons for that inspiration is it Ayuden Chronicles? It has that same. There are 100-something characters to build your army with, because that's one of the best points of Suikoden 2. At least I never played 1, but I played 2, and it was
the same. But Ayuden Chronicles was made by the same people. It was the same creator and two of the same creators, though. It was who unfortunately has passed away now, Moriyama. He was the writer and director of at least a couple of those games, and then Junko Kawano did a bunch of the other ones, and she was also like the character artist. So she's still around and carrying that torch, and she actually redid the character portraits for Suikoden 1, and they look much better now, because that was very early in her career, and they did not look great. They look very dated, and she redrew them, and they look much better now, so that's cool. But yeah, it was kind of like the big... Konami's treating it like a relaunch of the property, and they're coming out with a new mobile game, which is... Gotcha.
I'm surprised you did not include in our news section the very relevant news that also came out of that.
Oh yeah, and they are making an anime adaptation of Suikoden 2. So, we don't have many details on that. It's probably pretty far out, but
yeah,
that'll be cool. That could be very nice. They've I hope that this leads to them like remastering like Suikoden 3 and 5. 4 is garbage. So I don't really care about that, but yeah, maybe someday they can farm it out and we'll get a new Suikoden game that's not a mobile gacha game on the horizon. But yeah, that's where we're at. So
nice. Yeah, I would definitely give that anime a shot. That's a lot of characters. I mean, granted, you don't talk to many of them in the game if you don't want to. Like, a lot of them are like recruiting them for your armies, doing like a little side quest, or just talking to them, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, I'll fight for you," or whatever. So, not very many of them truly need their own characters or development storylines.
Like, you recruit them, and they're like shopkeeps or something like that, or random like there's a chef. You're gonna do cooking mini game, like stuff like that. So, yeah, not all playable, plot relevant, plot relevant people, but
I need to see a backstory for all 108.
I mean, they all have backstories.
Yeah, they all have backstories.
Like full episode for each.
Oh God.
Ooh, that's gonna be tough for some of the characters. That's just like, hey, if you give me that mug of coffee, I'll fight in your army. And then you do that.
I want a Disney Plus spin-off of each of the 108 characters.
A 90-minute OVA about the significance of the coffee cup that causes you to join an entire army.
Yes.
Yeah, alright, that'll work. Sure. On my end, I don't have too much to recommend outside of mirroring Kate's Suikoden stuff, because those are considered classic RPGs. Any list you look up is going to have the second one, if not the first one as well, on the list. They're just really good games, period. But other than that, I think the main thing that I wanted to shout out here, and I'm pretty sure I'm correct in that this is, it might be new as of like 2 or 3 days ago, but Nasu Summer in Andalusia was released on Blu-ray. That's so right. You can actually fucking watch it. Because for a long time, your best bet was just finding like a pirated copy or something on a streaming site or something. But we finally have a Blu-ray of it. It's a really great story, especially if you like racing bikes and things like that. If you have any interest in that sort of sport and stuff, it's super good. Would highly recommend, and it's not expensive. I mean, granted, it's not like a feature-length film. So you're paying, I think, $20 for about 50 minutes of content. But still very well worth it. Would highly recommend buying it and giving that a shot as a little like hidden gem in your collection.
And has a great trailer, as all of their releases do.
Indeed. But that's about it from my end. So I think with the recommendations out of the way, we can call it a night here. So, Kestrel, how about you let everyone know, as usual, where they can find us and where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find us on all your favorite evil social media platforms led by evil billionaires who are destroying the world. Twitter, Facebook. Not on
Are we
Truth
still
Social
on
yet,
Twitter? Why are we still on Twitter?
because unfortunately everyone is still on Twitter.
No, they're not. Not anymore. Should delete that.
Yeah,
Get us off of there.
Yeah, but they are.
I don't need those people. Enough of this.
Well,
I don't recognize them, therefore they do not exist.
yeah, we are also on Blue Sky, fandompostradio.bisky.app. That is owned by benevolent hunter character Bisky. Yeah, you can find us anywhere you find podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Most of these platforms also owned by evil billionaires. You can find us on Apple Music, YouTube Music, YouTube itself, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and SoundCloud. And find us on fandompost.com. Email us fandompostradio@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter at FullMetalKioma or Blue Sky kestrelswift.bisky.app.social. Bisky.social. The .app is the actual URL. That's right.
Nice. And Kate, how about you?
Find me on Blue Sky at SonicBug. You can find me on the Fandom Post, posting about whatever I am currently supposed to be reviewing. I have 2 book reviews I've got to write this weekend, and edit a podcast, and write my reviews of Apothecary Diaries, which will be continuing, because I will write about that show as long as that show exists. Yeah, that's where I am.
Excellent. And as always, you can find me right here, nowhere else. So, 100% exclusive contract.
Hell yeah.
As always, thank you everyone for listening. And if you have anime character designers that you have a particular affinity for, let us know. It is a very interesting little job, career path out there, as I've learned through my research on becoming a character designer and all that type of stuff. So I will look forward to speaking about that next episode when we can get the gang all together. But yeah, as usual, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you soon.